put a big flag up there in a moment because the Eagle has landed on the Premiers in 2018.
There's a lot of people in here, so... Time's come. Yeah, my feet won't let me keep playing, so hanging them up at the end of the year, or pretty much now.
I think Eric McKenzie, the type of career he had was fantastic. He was probably everyone talks about it, but he's probably one of the best key defenders for, probably a 3-year period there, but especially his best and fairest year, and hurting his knee, and then missing a year, and then you can't quite get back to where you wanted to be, and then the game changes, and unfortunately hurt himself again. So it's really disappointing that it went that way for Eric.
You boys have got a great opportunity coming up, so wishing you all the best for these coming weeks. Yeah, don't let this slip. I wish I was out there, being able to help you boys. Haven't been able to all year, but yeah, go and enjoy it. I've got to start the next chapter of my life.
He told a few of us at having a coffee the day before, so a few of us got the heads up that he was going to pull the pin. But I think for a while with the serious injuries he was going through, the writing was on the wall a little bit for him, unfortunately. And I suppose from my point of view, yeah, it was probably one of the hardest retirements I've seen. One, because he's one of my best mates, and I've gone through a lot of footy with him, travelled with him, become close with him. But anytime you see someone's career end, really because of injury, it's always a bit sad, and seems a bit unfair. But you know, he played a lot of footy for the footy club.
Pretty much my last 4 years have been very much interrupted. Yeah, it's frustrating, but that's all part of the journey. I'm not the only bloke who's had injuries in my time playing footy. So, as we've just seen, like with Sheppy going down this week, injuries are part of football, and so I can't feel sorry for myself at all.
It was funny. It was typical Big Easy style. I remember we were rounding out of the warm-up room after he'd had his sort of last presser, and I went up the ramp right next to him, and sort of we shook hands and had a hug, and it was like a couple seconds of holding him back. Sort of looked at each other, and I said, "Thanks, mate," and he's like, "No worries," and that was it.
If you told me when I got drafted that I could play 12 years at West Coast, I'd take it.
Unfortunately, couldn't be part of our premiership in terms of being the 22 out there, but played a huge role in helping the club get to that point.
Melbourne has flown out to Perth this morning ahead of tomorrow's preliminary final against West Coast.
Yeah, there was a lot of external noise coming into the prelim. Melbourne were riding a huge wave of support from Victoria especially. You know, they'd finished outside the top 4, they'd won a couple of finals, they hadn't been in finals for a while, so they had this real rally of emotion where it was probably good for us. We were over here and preparing for a prelim final, and we just prepared as well as we could to beat Melbourne, and there were some pretty interesting comments in the media.
Are you on the Demons?
I think they'll win. I think with their momentum, they've just got too many things going right for them at the moment, and I've just had a question mark on the Eagles all year, and they can feel quite rightly sort of a bit miffed with me, but I just haven't felt it for the Eagles. I think the Demons by 3 goals.
They didn't earn my trust against Collingwood. I'm tipping Melbourne to win by about 4 goals.
The great pity about Collingwood losing to West Coast on Saturday night is that West Coast is now very well placed to go through to the grand final. And Neil, I've got to say, I think it would be a waste of a spot in the grand final if they get there.
Really?
Because they can't perform at the MCG.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And we've seen that before in very recent times.
That's all motivating factors, but also, I mean, who cares? Some of these guys are getting paid to make stupid comments in the media, so if you take notice of too much, then you lose your mind a little bit.
The Eagles have defied expectations all year. What has been going on, Ryan?
Look, it's hard to say, isn't it? I don't think any of us really expected them to be in a preliminary final, but they've had a spectacular season, and also they've been super resilient, losing Nick Nat, losing Andrew Gaff, now losing Brad Shepherd. They keep finding ways to win.
They've had that real squad mentality all year, and as you said, they've come through adversity, and Simo's been able to get the best out of guys. Like you look at Jeddah, Redden, Chris Maston, Jack Darling's the best forward in the competition the first half of the year. by simplifying these roles, and it's been perfect for the members. It's worked beautifully.
Just love listening to you two. At the start of the season, neither of these two gave West Coast any chance of playing finals football. Now they're in a prelim, and along with Robert Walls, you're both eating humble pie right now.
It's been 18 years since Melbourne last featured in a grand final.
Melbourne hadn't won for so long. They hadn't had final success for so long, and they had the whole of Victoria behind them.
Can Melbourne continue this wave?
Oh, look, everyone's behind Melbourne, aren't they? Yep. I mean, they've got the football world alive.
It hasn't been overhyped from a West Coast perspective. Like, obviously they've been on the front page of the paper all the time and the leading the news bulletins, but it hasn't felt, there's been like a sense of calmness, I think, through the group.
Yeah, we just stood back a little bit and let that happen. That was beautiful. Just not to be so fancied at playing at home. And then we could just get to work with the game. They'd beaten us a few weeks beforehand.
And Melksham back into the side, wastes no time, and he squeezes it home. The Demons can sniff September.
No doubt, they'd handled the crowd before. They handled our way of playing before. They played a very dangerous brand of football that can expose you really quickly.
We weren't far off from in the previous game, and we didn't have a key forward for most of the day with Jack going down.
Eagle star Jack Darling doesn't remember a whole lot about the round 22 clash with the D's. He was knocked out in the opening 10 minutes on that occasion. But this time around, with Josh Kennedy fit and firing too, it'll be a much more menacing Eagles attack.
The hype around Perth coming into a home prelim final at a new stadium was just amazing. There were so many people who were excited. You know, your phone's going off. You know, you're playing off for a spot in the grand final, so you got everything to lose.
You know, we played in a prelim in 15, so we sort of had that experience about how to deal with a home prelim build-up, which we handled pretty well in 15, so we went down the same model.
2-second rule. We know the number one comp at mark play-ons when they win. Right? When they're 12th, they lose. So let's just try and slow them down by manning the mark well, and let's just stay connected once it leaves your area. Forwards, mids, backs, you know what that means. Right? Really clear with that. All good. There's no such thing as destiny, boys. There's no fairy tales. There's no we deserve this, we don't deserve it. Right? All it is a game of footy in the next 2 hours. There's nothing behind it. You can have belief, but we can control our own destiny. My experience when you're young, so young fellas here and guys who play their role really well, I think you start thinking about, it might go right today. This is my chance to really step up and do something on the big stage. I reckon that's the feeling of a lot of you young fellas, right? Older guys and leaders and our perceived best players think, I've got to play well today. I've got to do something special. I can't let the team down. Can we just drop all that? All right? There's nothing to prove, boys. There is nothing to prove with me or anyone at this club. That work is done. Now it's about we either win or we don't. Play for each other and the result will take care of itself. Don't think about things too much. Just enjoy what's in front of you for the next 10 minutes, then the next 10 minutes, then the national anthem, and then the first bounce.
Lewis, speak about dangerous handballs. Chopped down by Kennedy. First blood, West Coast.
Good hands, Brayshaw, just a little fumble. Could be costly. Oh, they're out everywhere. Lacroix's going to get it. Lacroix's going to play on. They're going to waltz into goal. And Cripps kicks the second goal of the game. McGovern short. Brandon put the 1 minute out. Play on. Cripps, can he get another one? It looks good on the boot. It's home.
Checked it to Venables, who slides in. Kennedy just held his spot and kicks a goal.
The scary part is that there's still a heap of time left until the half-time break.
Our players did start well with pressure, and then that sort of built, and then suddenly the scoreboard took over. And when that happens and you're in a state, it's hard to come back from.
The goals didn't really stop for us, especially in that first half. They just kept piling on, and you always think that, especially in a prelim final, that something's going to happen, something's going to change. Melbourne are going to come back hard. We got half-time and sort of everyone just resets then. So I was kind of getting pretty excited, but I wanted to keep a lid on it as well. So it was sort of tough to stay steady, but I think everyone did, which was the great part about it.
Rioli, quick hands, Cripps, snap, got another one, and this man's kicked his third.
Luckily, we come out on that day, we did all of our prep, and we were very clear in what we needed to do as a team, and we executed on the day, which was the most important part.
I remember walking past Gil on the way back to the coach's box at 3/4 time. We were walking down the corridor, and he said, "Well done, and see you next week," or something. And I said, "Don't you say that, mate." I know we're up by a fair bit, but I didn't want to hear that when there was a game still going. There's still 30 minutes left. I think they might have kicked the first goal, or I can't remember, but it was just, I was thinking, sure, it would be the worst loss in the history of AFL if they had lost that game. And I was thinking that might happen at the start of the last.
I know people were booking flights at half-time. Well, my mates were very happy they were up by so much. So, yeah, it was a good day, but nothing that you ever expect, being up by 10 goals at half-time.
Darling thumps a handball to Hutchings. Kennedy makes forward space for him. Hutchings takes the responsibility himself and dribbles it through.
Started getting towards the end of the third and then the fourth, the crowd start cheering MCG and stuff like that. You sort of start thinking, like, yeah, this is happening now. Like, next week's going to go ahead.
High ball to half forward. Vardy got dressed through Lacroix. Rioli. Look at him just cruise in and nail another goal for the West Coast Eagles.
It was just good to see the boys fight it out, and to walk into a grand final like that, it was something quite special, especially in front of a home crowd. I think to hear them chant the MCG in the last quarter was something that you'll never forget.
There's your siren. The West Coast Eagles are through to the 2018 grand final. Had the two great eras, Richo, West Coast, haven't they? Obviously the early 90s, that extraordinary powerhouse. The mid-2000s, the Chris Judd and Ben Cousins team.
They never go away though, do they? 22 final series in the AFL era, and this team here now can join those great teams. Made a grand final in 15, they win another premiership for the Eagles.
We are different than 2015. It's a different style of play. It's a different maturity amongst our players. Our leaders have been carrying a lot of the responsibility this year, and they've really grown. We acknowledge and we do things well, but we stay pretty grounded. So I'm hoping that we're in better shape than we were last time. Last time was a little bit of, what's going on here? You know, it's our second year together, and how did this happen? Whereas this year I feel like we're a little bit more settled.
Well done, boys. From day one of pre-season, the whole list, the squad mentality, the whole club, you've been working for today. And from the first, Scotty, you're a trademark player this week. Hard and dry. Bars? Just bars. Productive, role-driven execution today by everyone. All right, so to have this, we decide our own story. All right, there's no such thing as destiny, boys. You got to do the work. And to stay on task. That first half, it was just get out of our way. The whole list was the squad mentality, and I'm feeling for you, Gaffy, and I'm feeling for you, Nick, and Easy, and Shep. Okay, but we're all in this together. We've got one win to go. One win to go.